Okay, afternoon everybody. I thought the best way to start this off, knowing it full well, for those of you in the room, it's 4 o'clock in the UK, for those of you around wherever else you're watching, hopefully it doesn't sound too weird, but 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon kicking off, you're there thinking, okay, we've got to make sure the energy wakes up, we've got to make sure. So, okay, people have had you standing up and doing stuff. So what I would like you to do there's a little song I want you to sing. Yeah, it's a very simple one, and you all know it, and I'll put in the extra bit in the middle, because there's something going on today that only a few of you might know of, but you're probably not entirely sure of. So the song is simple, so follow along with me. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, first year of publishing Mental Wealth. Birthday today. Happy birthday to my little Wookie. I didn't know whether I was going to do that, but I thought it would just change the energy in the room a bit. So okay, in simple, why am I here to talk to you about building positive mental wealth? In simple perspectives, it's to do with isolation. It's to do with the challenges around isolations. It's to do with the issues that are associated with that we have all suffered from, both personally and professionally in everything we do. And the start of the decade has been pretty ropey for all of us, to the point that some of us, during COVID, changed their look. It was just a little bit of a challenging time. The one over there is COVID-1, the lockdown. And that was COVID-3, the lockdown. And it all got a little bit mad for most of us, because you couldn't go to a barber's, you couldn't go anywhere. And you were isolated. You were stuck there, not knowing who was around you, what was going on, and we were there in our own little worlds. We weren't even allowed out down the road, apart from that one visit per day somewhere. Going on a bike ride on your own wasn't allowed. We were properly isolated. And we were suffering in many cases from bereavement or melancholy. It's a wonderful statue, this. But it's so powerful because it's just that void when we are isolated and when we're suffering. And sadly, it got worse for many people. There's a friend of mine who used to work at this university. And during COVID, he was the inspiration of part of the book as well, I have to say. Estranged from his wife, ugly relationship with his son, COVID on top, and he made the ultimate exit. He didn't have the right support network around him at that time, asking the right questions. So it feels quite strange to be here where this guy used to work. But I don't tell you that story to depress you, because sadly, it's not a story that's unfamiliar to all of us nowadays. And we have so much work to do in this environment to make changes, to make a difference. And that's what I want to help. That's my direction, that's my focus. Because isolation kills creativity, prevents decision making. When we're isolated, we don't make decisions. We've been talking about choice. Choices. Well, choices, if you're isolated, you don't make a decision. So you're not making a choice. That means you're accepting the status quo. Not making a choice means I'm accepting what is going on today, good, bad, or indifferent. So we have to find ways where we can get the right people around us so that we can make more choices. Then we can make more decisions, and then we can have more fun. Because somebody asked earlier on today what you value, so my first value that it all came down to 10 to 5 to 3 to 1 was fun. That's the whole remit. Andrew, what were you talking about? Yes, it's all part of fun. Well, it wasn't happiness, but it was absolutely enjoyment. Let's get it right. So if we get this set up correctly, then we work. So masterminding, self-care, fitness, well-being, support, mental health. I am not a mental health expert. Put that out there right from the start. I'm not a trained counsellor. I specifically use the language of mental wealth because it is about building positive bank balance. It's building positivity into your world, what you're doing, how you're working, so that we can deal with the challenges that come along. If I work with people, then I will plug in mental health experts, I will plug in counsellors, I don't have Teflon skin. I'm amazed and in awe of the people that do that work, because it's just too much for me. But that's fine. I do other stuff. And we pull in and I plug in different people all over the place. And we need to build this so it works. So first things first, we've got to start asking for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. I had the privilege of working with many professional elite sportsmen and women as they transition from their professional career to their life after sport. And for them, this transition space is a guillotine moment for many. Yesterday there were 35 people keeping them on the pitch, in the pool, on the track. Today, or tomorrow as it would be in that case, they're not fit for purpose. They're no longer needed. They've got to reinvent themselves, they've got to rechange, they've got to change everything that's working there. And a lot of the work I learned, and a lot of the understanding from working with these elite sportsmen and women, is the same for all of us in life. We are transitioning constantly. We're transitioning from being a school child to going off to university, getting an apprenticeship, from being becoming a renter, paying bills, getting the first job, getting the second job, getting a promotion, moving into a house with a partner. All of these things, we're constantly transitioning. Heaven forbid we go into a global pandemic and we transition from being sociable and allowed out to isolation. That's what happens. So we're constantly transitioning. So that means we need to reinvent the people around us, which means we need to ask for help. If we ask for help, good things happen. If we don't ask for help, then we don't get the support. Yeah, it's as simple. I love my little square blockheads. We've got some great little video memes on those. But it's just that whole part of, we get the right people around us and support works. It becomes so much easier and we have more fun. You all know this clock, 86,400. It's the number of seconds we have per day, each one of us. No matter how you dress it up, we have 86,400 seconds per day. We can choose to use them or we can choose to waste them. How we choose to waste them is part of our challenge. Because I've just been talking for 30-ish seconds about this clock. We've been here for a whole day. Now, if you do nothing as a result of being here today, then you've wasted your time. So in effect, you'll have wasted 86,400 seconds. And you don't get them back. You can't trade them in and just get a new set. So we have to be selfish. So part of what I really want to hone in today, let's do stuff for us so that we can fire more effectively, so we can have the greater impact. Because if we're not fit for purpose and the team around us are not fit for purpose, we're not going to achieve stuff. It doesn't work that way. We've got to get the other people around us, because then we can make time for fun. It's not all about money. We know that. It's about making a difference. It's not all about travel. Well, I do remember travel. It was fun. Did enjoy it, met lots of people, saw beautiful places, understood what was going on. So we really need to be clear on this, because when we understand what isolation means to us, we can then make changes. If we don't understand what isolation means to us and the negative effects it has on us, then we just sit there and we don't make any decisions. We don't make choices. And not making a choice means, as I said before, we accept the status quo. So, your mental well team. More people have climbed Everest than swum the English Channel. I built a mental well team to enable me to do one of the biggest challenges I've ever done in my life. And that was to swim the English Channel. I don't tell you this to show off. This is more a point of, when you've got the right people around you, you can do weird stuff. And I've shown a couple of the people. When my mother passed, God bless her, I went through the house and I found lots of these little badges. Now some of you recognise them.
A bagger. I got a bagger.
You got a bagger. You got your gymnastics.
Me too.
There's the swimming, but 1,500 metres. There's the bronze medallion, not the one you wear around your chest, or it's a different sort. But prior to doing that nonsense, I swam at a very basic level. To club, not even club actually, just at school. Group of us that I played water polo with, because I switched from the violence of rugby to the violence of water polo, where you got less chance of having your nose ripped off and your leg broken so you can't go to work. But you still get bruises. most violent sport, apparently. It's just but it's good fun. All of my kids play it, and my youngest, who's now 18, plays in the adult team with me. And actually next weekend we're going to Holland on water polo tour, and he's the tour junior. That's another story. Anyway, but tell you this story because to get ready for this, it was 2 years of planning. I had not done, along with 5 other members of the team, had not done any open water swimming before we said we're going to do it. It was, you have to train in water that's 15 degrees. So you've got to get acclimatized to do it correctly. You are wearing a pair of budgie smugglers, little swimming trunks, yeah? And a lovely little hat. There's a nice little gold one. I won't put it on for you now because it messes my hair up. And obviously at certain times you had a torch on the back of your head as well. We set off on the Saturday night. It was bank holiday weekend at the end of August. Thunder and lightning and rainstorms kicking off over the channel. Well, we thought above our head, but actually they were kicking off over northern France, about 55 miles away, but because you've got that expanse of nothing, you think it's right above you. The first swims that we did was through the night. It was like swimming in an open washing machine. Some of the guys were being ill once they got out of the water because it was that choppy and that ugly. The second swim, though, was at sunrise. The sea changed. The wind disappeared. The tide switched. Our fastest swimmer, he's a bit of a shark, he swam 6.8 kilometers in an hour, which, believe me, that's a long way. The tide was helping. I got out of the water. I was swimming after him. 7.2. I got out of the water and said, I don't care what anybody says, just tell me that was great, it was marvellous. And I said, yeah, this is how much you covered. Yes, the tide was with me. Yes, but technically I was swimming faster than Michael Phelps for an hour in the middle of the English Open. It was great. But to move on from this, so I share this with you because when you build the team around you that is fit for purpose for what you want to achieve and where you're going, you can achieve extraordinary things. You can achieve wonderful things. That quote, more people have climbed Everest than have swum the English Channel, will be on my gravestone. Yeah, because it's just one of those things. My 3 adult children all sit there going, shut up about that with you. No, I've got bragging rights for life. It's great. For you guys, this is about finding the things that really drive you. It doesn't have to be stupid extreme activities, because clearly that is not for everybody. But it's doing the things that work correctly for you. So, talking of things that work correctly for you. Now you're going to have a little bit of work. I know. Friday afternoon, I don't want to do any work. It's Friday afternoon, guys. I'm going to get you to do a little bit of work. We're talking about a mental wealth team. We're talking about your support network. Okay? One of the specifics I want you to hone in on now. This is totally subjective. This is not scientific. I want you to start writing down a list of people in your support network. I'll carry on talking whilst I tell you more. There's a list here of arbitrary names just to help trigger your thinking. But it's just about writing down the names of people that have got your who are in your network. They've got your back. My wife has the dentist, not because she's having an affair with him, just because every time before we go on holiday or the day after he's gone on holiday, she has a tooth problem. Every time, guaranteed. She's so afraid of the dentist, she doesn't quite have them on speed dial, but it's nearly there. You're then, in the next column along, you're going to write down their commitment score. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed to you are they? Now this is just for you. So please don't try and boost their scores because you think they might be offended. They're not going to see it, it doesn't matter. Please don't underscore it just because you think I'm going to be tough, because again, it doesn't matter. This is purely subjective, your gut feel. Bob is whoever in your life, and he's about a 6. Claire, she's about a 9. Jill, yeah, she gets on there. I was going to go 2 and I thought it was too rude and too So it's just a simple process of putting these scores down. Now I know each of you will be putting different numbers down, different names, different people. And to begin with, you sort of just get the first name straight out, the first 2, 3, 4, very easy. For some of you, the first 2, 3, 4 are not so easy. Can't even think who's actually truly got your back. That's a good place, that's a good reality. That's not a problem, that's a reality. Now, we've got them all scored. So let me explain to you what the scores mean. And again, this is subjective. Don't feel you have to go and change the scores because you don't like what you scored somebody now. If you scored somebody a 1 to 3, that means you know them. Congratulations. That's it. They're an acquaintance. You know them. Some of us in the room today are 1 to 3s because we met for the first time. We're acquaintances. It's nothing personal, it's nothing rude, it's just reality. The scoring a 4 or a 5, they know you because there's a reason. Might be to do with sport, might be to do with previous work colleagues, might be to do with careers or school gate or whatever it is. However, if you don't turn up for that sport for a month or so because you broke your leg, they won't ring in between times to say, hey Mike, haven't seen you for a while, how you going? Yeah? But when you turn up again, oh hi Mike, where have you been? Not seen you for a while. So they're chirpy, pally, friendly, whatever else, but there's no commitment to you. Your 6s and 7s. Now your 6s and 7s is where a lot of scores go. Because these are people, they're friends. Some of them can be your really best friends. Because you've known them for years. You go to birthday parties, weddings, bar mitzvahs, christenings, births, whatever it is that goes on in your world. You've got them there. However, you are not comfortable being open, honest, vulnerable and naked financially or whatever it is with that individual. You will not share the crown jewels with them, your inner sanctum. They're great people, but, and if there's a but, then you're not going to score them the 8, 9s or 10s. Because only 8, 9s and 10s are the people that you can be truly open, honest and vulnerable with. They're the ones where you've got a harebrained idea. They're the ones where you've got an opportunity. They're the ones where you need some support or help. Yeah? They're the ones that work. That's where you're really working on. Yeah.
I just have a question, because I put some people down as 6 and 7, who I am really open and vulnerable with, and that level of safety's there, but I wouldn't necessarily say they have my back in the sense of like, I guess it's just a different definition of it. They don't necessarily always have capacity to go above and beyond. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable sharing and all that. It's not a guard up. It's just
so you're comfortable. So that means we're in a state of awareness. So I mean, I've got a couple of friends who I know are 7s, and I'll share certain bits with them. But I know there's certain things. I mean, even my best mate, I know full well. There's everything we can talk about except for numbers. He does. When it comes to finances, he's got a bit of a King Edward on his shoulder, and it's not even a refined chip. It is a full potato. When he's like that, so I won't open up fully in that area, but I will open up in other areas.
It's more to give you a clear example. It's like my brother and sister, for example, who are younger than me, who are really close. I adore them. I tell them everything, but they can't really help me. In a way,
okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Perfect example.
Yeah.
My sister would have me, and there's 11 out of 10 on this sheet.
Yeah.
Because she comes to me for everything. For me, she'd be a 7.
Yeah, so I mean,
because I don't go to her for any of that professional support or other vulnerability. She's my blood, love her dearly, whatever else. But when it comes to when I need somebody who's got my back, who's going to challenge and ask me better questions and help me achieve more, that's not where I go to. I have other people that are in my zone, in my inner sanctum. And there's no right or wrong answers. I know, and I did say right from the beginning, this is subjective. Yeah, so go with it. And what I'm going to do in a moment, though, is the key part here. Come to you 1 second. Is your 8, 9s, and 10s are the people in your mental wealth team. Okay. So when it comes to mental wealth team score, if you've got somebody with 8, 9, or 10, they count. So you just add up the ones that score 8, 9 or 10. So if you've got 3 people that scored 8, 1 person scored 9 and that's it, then 24, 33 is your total score. If you've got 1 person who scores 9, then your total score is 9. There is no right or wrong answer to this. All this is doing is highlighting the awareness of where your support network currently is, so that we can work it. Okay? Totally reinforcing that point. This is subjective. It's about you having an awareness. What I'm going to ask you to do now, I'm going to have 2 minutes. We're working in pairs on the table. What's this highlighting to you? What are you noticing? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it scary? Is it real? What are you noticing? Andrew, sorry, you had a question?
We're just following on from Alex's point. Is it the subtle difference between, it's not a case of opening up, because that's more about how comfortable you are in opening up, but going to those people for support in that space is the critical element.
Going to, where you need that network of people makes a difference. For those of you zooming in, I'm talking to the camera there, is that the right way? Make sure of that list, but then the key part is understanding where you have got names on there that you want to be a 7, 8, 9, 10, but at the moment are 3s or 4s. What are you going to proactively do to go and help them become more of your team? There are other people who are actually really just doing that scoring, they're not scoring highly at all. So actually we need to do something different. Do we need to let them go? How can we do that? Another minute and a half.
How do you get them to feel that on your team?
Yeah, well, I think it's for me, it's my first thing on my list, no offence. Because and likewise, we're all certain values, and I think we have to do that.
But that's why you get they want to know my job was. I'll help you do that. I won't help you do your washing, but if the washing helps you do that, I'll do it.
Does it need
Is that? Yes, I've got a few. Yeah, I have. So I'm in a we've been meeting actually having a one training about everyone because we know that there will be a whole focus on what's around sort of.
And that's, for me, that's my
We've really dropped off the last couple of years. And we from doing the sort of mastermind stuff to what are we doing on our website, really getting into diving quite deep live questions about life. Because we've been together so long, we've lost parents, we've had
yeah, I think the other thing is that
we all had a particular
there is 3 of us who are quite
perspective
old
as well.
and
So there's also a group that I've joined during the pandemic, which is interesting, which is feeling solely aligned with the very such things. So I guess it's sharing, and I suppose it's a two-way share, it's not something that's going to help.
It feels wrong because you're not done. This is my exact but you're not done. It's just you need 2.0.
I might be able to stand on stage and tell you that.
Okay, let's pull that back, guys. I know I'm only giving you a short amount of time to start this conversation. The good news about this is these conversations will go on over dinner tonight and continue to evolve. A couple of points that have been coming out from just chatting on a couple of areas. Yeah, the reality check is there are certain people in your network, in your group at the moment, that are not fit for purpose for going forward. Yeah, and I'm not telling you that you have to get the guillotine out and cull them. No. What the point is, we've just gone through a 2-year isolation pandemic global reboot, and life has changed. You need the 2.0, the 3.0, the 4.0 of that person, because they're no longer fit. They're still seeing you through the same eyes they did when you were a teenager. Yeah, some of your oldest friends, they can't let you grow because even though that was a couple of weeks ago now that you were a teenager. Speaking generically in the room, obviously. Yeah. And that's the reality. So we need to evolve. So it's not a question of turning around and saying, I'm not being your friend anymore and dumping them. It's you being strategic and selfish in your focus of who am I going to intentionally recruit to be part of my support network going forward. Because this is where we go forward to. But what I've given you there is a very, very simplistic framework to just look at who's got my back and have I got the right people around me. There was a lady in an audience similar to this. She's a very high-powered coach doing brilliantly well. And she sat there, and the first time she did this scorecard, she just had a total epiphany. Because her words were, all I do is give. Nobody's got my back. She wrote down these names, and she couldn't, with all heart, give them 8, 9s and 10s. Because they weren't looking after her. They were looking after themselves and draining her of her energy, her enthusiasm, her desire to help and be supportive, her need to be stroked. So I mean, I'm not blaming it all on everybody in her network, but it was just that reality check. So this is just a baseline point. At the end of this, I'll challenge you again to go away and do more with it, because I'm just giving you the tools to just start playing with it, because that's, as we start to build that makes the difference. Yeah.
It's a two-way thing as well. Maybe she hadn't opened up about being vulnerable herself, so maybe they weren't aware, or do you think...
To be honest, I think for this particular lady, she just was so focused on being a brilliant coach and giving. She wasn't looking after herself. Yeah, and so she was actually suffering mentally, physically, spiritually as a result of not taking better care of herself, which we've all gotten into at different times, especially when you're sitting there in your little office on the spare room bed, or in the end of the garden if you were lucky enough to have one of those garden offices, or wherever you happen to be sitting perched on the edge of the kitchen table whilst the dog's running around and the kids are throwing ice creams at each other and you're trying to have an important conversation because it's worth £1,000 to me. Never happened to me. Never happened to me. My biggest problem actually during all the lockdowns, I am fortunate enough to have an office at the end of the garden, which was multiple years ago, and I'm sitting there in the office and I had 2 student daughters back from university, and at different points of the day, all I could see was different bottles of gin floating past windows in the house. Enough said. Okay, so the key part here is about then, let's intentionally start building our support network, our mental wealth team that's fit for purpose going forward. And the key part of this is understanding firstly about your network. And so, just to share a little story with you about the network. My father, many years ago, used to live in Singapore in the late 50s, early 60s. He was in the rubber trade, as in taking it from trees, not latex. No, seriously, Andrew, it was from the source. Okay, but he was a bachelor in those days, and he used to drink quite heavily at the Pagan, which is the cricket club in Singapore. Had a great old time. One of his best mates moved to Bangkok and set up a logistics business, a container ship trading company, and they stayed mates over the next however many years. 30 years later, David in Bangkok got a Christmas card from my dad saying, Mike is moving to Western Australia with his wife and baby daughter. It was just a Christmas update. And David picks up the phone and rang my dad. They didn't speak over the phone or anything like that. They kept in touch probably twice a year, birthdays and Christmas, that's it. He said, you need to tell Mike when he gets to Perth in Western Australia to look up my mate Newton. Newton did some land deals with me in the 1970s. He's a good bloke. If he can help, I'm sure he'll look after Mike. Fair enough. So I get this little message, I get these details. I got out to Australia. I'd been doing the corporate world, so I took my wife and baby, and we went off in a 4x4 for a couple of months, travelling around, so I could get to know what this little thing was that cried and dooed and all the other wonderful things that she did. And then I came back and I went and saw Newton, and it was in, for anybody who knows Perth, it was Peppermint Grove, don't you know? I mean, we're talking, yes, this was the salubrious, and these doors open, and there's this little old guy. Oh, come on in, mate. I'm feeling a bit crook today. Just had my first dose of chemo, but I hear you're looking to get sorted. Let's see what we can chat about. Dodgy accents, I know, terrible. So I got Newton. So with Newton, I had chats, and he said, I'm considering investing in a .com business that has no commercial skills at the moment in there. What I might do is plug you in instead of me putting in cash. That sounds interesting. 3 years later, when I left Australia with shares in that company, because I've been working with them for the last 3 years, I set up my business back in the UK. I've taken on an international MBA whilst I was in Oz as well. Came back to the UK, set up, and that was 20 years ago now. 3 months after I met Newton, he was dead. Directly, indirectly, as a result of my father's drinking habits as a bachelor in Singapore, he changed my life. Newton never knows how much he changed my life. But that's the power of the network. You guys all have amazing networks that we don't utilize. So when it comes to intentionally building your support network, we need to get the right people in our team that are going to ask better questions of us than we will ask of ourselves. Because that's what makes the difference. When you've got people doing that. And there's 4 core areas. Oh, it's in white, so it's not showing. 4 core areas I talk about. Self-care team, a coaching team, professional team, and your mastermind and peer support teams. Those 4 areas. So when it comes to your self-care, fitness, religion, spirituality, Dr. Fun, nutritionist, healthy, wealthy and wise, all of these things are the bits that we need to have and be on top of. Because when we put self-care at the top of our list, that means we are being selfish. But selfish in a good way. Because when you're looking after number 1, guess what happens? We get strong enough to look after everybody else. We can make a difference in other people's worlds. If we don't do that, the wheels fall off. If we're not looking after ourselves, we can't help everybody else, as has been so worked. I am a weekend warrior. I do this nonsense. But I share you this because in my world, I learnt about meditation and mindfulness through the fact that I've done it for years, even though I've always said I can't. Because I can't sit still. Selena's been sitting there all day today, and I'm sure she's been bouncing around. Well, there goes my mood hoover. She's been bouncing around because my legs just bounce the whole time. That's how I work. So I don't sit still or I fall asleep. But actually, I've done active mindfulness. I've always been doing stuff. So whether that be repetitive actions of swimming, or climbing, or walking, or whatever it is that we all do, just that trudge after trudge after trudge, where you land up counting strokes, thank you. Counting strokes, doing all sorts of different things that get your brain in flow. And then as a result of that, guess what? You get, to coin a phrase of a colleague of mine, you have the cosmic flaxes, which is a nicer way. I normally say brain farts. But either way, you just get these little pearls of wisdom popping in. That's done through different forms of meditation. The mood hoover. Clearly knew was about to be talked about. We've already talked today about energy vampires. It's not my language, many people use the mood hoovers. However, they do make noises. These things are rubbish, they are desk vacuum cleaners. They're meant to clean your keyboard. They blow, not suck, which is not very useful for a vacuum cleaner. Friday afternoon, I'm allowed to. But we need to know who those people are. And if we've got people in our network currently that are not energizing us, why are they there? And if they're part of your family, then okay, we have a better challenge. We need to manage them more effectively. We need to take the phone calls where we're in the right space of mind so that we can deal with it. You know the person when he or she rings, and instead of you thinking, oh good, it's Jill, which is what I would say, you say, oh, it's Bob, and I'm not going to feel better come the end of this conversation than I do now. Don't take the call. Look after number one. Really need to. We just can't ignore these mood hoovers. This was in a shop window. I didn't buy it, but I just thought it was so perfect because it was actually what happens to us when we are surrounded and infected by mood hoovers. They bring us down. They don't bring us joy. But then the other thing we need to have is our sanctuary. Where do you go to reboot, rebuild, and reinvigorate? This is part of your self-care team. There are times where we have other people that help us do this, because when we've got this all in gear, then we are sorted and we can go and play more. This is down in Sandbanks. Some of you know it. It's just over there. You've got a little ferry goes there. My godmother used to have a flat down there that she bought in the 60s. I've had all my kiddie holidays there. My parents' ashes are scattered in the sand dunes. I go and sit and I chill. I reboot when I go down there.
Go to the peak.
Sorry?
Go to the peak.
Yep, and then walk around the corner and don't get naked. Because, the Studland is a little bit unique. But it's knowing where it is for you. That's the importance of it. When we know that, it works. Your coach, life coach, business coach, personal coach, whatever it is, we all need a coach because a coach gets more out of us than we do on our own. You know that. A lot of you do coaching. So I'm not here to lecture on coaching because you know its benefits. I know my coach is really irritating because not only is he a very, very good coach, he's also a psychologist. So he knows I'm lying before I've even opened my mouth, which doesn't help. However, when you have a coach who asks challenging questions, and we try and break habits. So for those of you in the room who don't drink, choose another subject of where you use up lots of time. Because for me, I gave up alcohol a number of years ago, having been a habitual rugby drinker, as you do. And it was an experiment, and I worked out that on a Friday, I'd be there at 5 o'clock, drumming my fingers, thinking, it's got to be 6 o'clock, really. I'm just going to be European. Just take the hour. And then on Saturday, you have a couple of drinks at lunchtime, then do sport, and then in the evening, go and play and be sociable. Sunday, you have the selfish wine at lunchtime. You know, the ones that you don't want to share with your friends, so you just want to have it all yourself, because it was a gift and it was really nice. And then in the evening, you either finish that bottle or you open the second one. It's not just me. You're not. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we only have a small amount of alcohol, let's say one of those nights. So let's put some hours around that. 20 minutes a day is 240 working days, which is 80 hours. 80 hours is 2 working weeks per year that can be gained when we understand how much time we donate to things like this. The god of alcohol, if you donate 15 hours a week to the god of alcohol, that's 100 days a year. I'm not saying give up drink if you don't want to, but let's take it away from alcohol and consider how much time we spend on Netflix, on Prime, on TikTok, on Facebook, on. The cumulative hours. All I want you to do is gain 20 minutes more productivity per day. That's it. I don't want you to work harder, I want you to work less. But I need you to be aware of where you're hemorrhaging. This is where coaches ask ugly questions that we don't like to ask ourselves, or we know the answers and we don't want to face them. Your professional team. I'll be very quick on these guys because we all need them. We don't want them on speed dial, but had I had the right professional team, I wouldn't have bought that beautiful property in Cyprus on the side of the PGA golf course that was never built because the power station exploded and they built a wind farm there and the companies went bust and I had to pay the mortgage for the last 15 years, but did complete on it 18 months ago. So I now have a property that's worth 20% of what I bought it for in Cyprus, but it is let out. Who knew? Marvellous. If you'd have the right ticks in all those boxes asking better questions than I had myself, I wouldn't have made that error. And it's a catastrophically expensive one. We need it. I was driven by this, the emotional draw of I wanted something sexy and fun to go and do. I didn't have this network of wisdom and etc. This guy here that was at my 40th birthday. He is my financial advisor. He is bald as a coot, and he came as some dodgy scouser to the party. I can't remember why the theme, but that's how it worked. So we need to trust these people. I was asking questions of my finance guys recently, and I said, I went back, he came to me with some ideas. I went back to him and said, have you considered these guys? To which the response was, Mike, you're the person who tells everybody to trust their advisors. Why are you second guessing and doubling up the work that I'm doing for you? Either you trust me or you don't. Final area, masterminding and peer support groups. Many of you are involved in these. If you're not involved in these, do get involved with them. I do love having Americans in the audience when we talk about masterminding, because it's not American. A mastermind did not start with Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. It started with the Lunar Society in Birmingham up the road. Absolutely. And the Brummies set it up. Erasmus Darwin, Matthew Bolton and others, luminaries in the 1760s, and they were asking questions of each other and helping each other grow. That's what masterminding is all about. It's confidential. It's 7 minds asking better questions of each other and holding each other accountable. If your mastermind group is plateauing, refresh the blood within it. If it's come to a natural end, cull it and start another one. If you want to pay for somebody else's mastermind group, great. Make sure you challenge the hell out of it and you're 100% committed to it. Because if you do it yourself, quite often we get a bit flaky and we get a bit nice to our friends. Whereas in the paid for ones, you put in more effort because you know you're putting coin down. Makes a difference. The smiley faces in a mastermind group make so much impact. So what? So let's pull this towards an ending. Plan for fun. Categorically.
Yes.
If you build the team around you, you can have more fun. Makes a massive difference. It is we have a duty of care. Gina was talking earlier about human doing or human being. I leave you with a challenge about human beings. This time last year, my son, one of his school friends, age 17, was fortunately unsuccessful in a suicide attempt. I don't tell you that story to bring you down, there's a reason behind it. The following morning at 11 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from my best mate who lives in America. And he was just rang out of the blue. So I said, hi Bob, great to hear from you. Before we start chit-chat, whatever else, why have you rung? That's a bit weird. And I said, there's a real reason behind this. Why have you rung me at this time, on this day, right now? Because it's 5 o'clock in the morning in America. So why is he ringing that time? I'm driving home from work. He runs the A&E, he's the head of A&E at Pennsylvania Hospital in Bethlehem, A&E in Pennsylvania. It was pure intuition and gut feel that made him pick up the phone. I was able to ask him all the ugly questions about what had happened with this young man. What was going on, what we should be expecting, where it was heading. And I then was able to impart that knowledge as a non-medically minded person to the parents of this young man. We got some brilliant information there. Bob still to this day has no understanding, no reason why he picked up the phone that time. But he was driving home from work, so he thought, I'll just give Mike a call. In your networks, in your connections, there is somebody that you have a gut feel about that you haven't spoken to. Do not tweet them. Do not text them. Do not high-five them, like them, give them a tickle on the what's-its. Pick up the phone. If you live close, go and see them. You do not know what is going on in their world. You will become a positive impact on their mental wealth by being part of their support network, by being part of their group. That will make a massive difference. Bob, to this day, has no idea what he did for me that day. But it was so powerful. We need to do that. And the key part of this is to take action. I gave you the scorecard. I gave you 2 minutes to play at it. Your challenge now is to take it away, complete it. Choose a buddy that's in the room here today, or work with somebody else at home or in your work environment, and put some more time, energy and effort into that. so it makes a massive impact for you. That will come through for you. We can have more fun if we get the right people around us. If you want to talk to me, please do. This is how we work. The more time and energy we put into building that proactive support network around us. Some of you have used the word inner sanctum. I think heptathlete, Jessica Ennis-Hill talks about her golden inner circle. Yeah? This is what we're talking about. Each one of you, as you build your mental wealth team, will go from having 2, 3, 4, 5 people to 8 to 15 people who have got your back. So any situation you get into, you can say, I need help, and they will answer with brutal, loving, accountable honesty. And as a result of that, when the wheels come off, you'll bounce back more effectively, but you'll be braver to make braver decisions, have more fun, and enjoy it along the way. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to talking to you more. Thank you.